Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Physical Media. My name is John. Faith will be back this week. She'll be joining me in a little while, but we like to start the show off every single week with the news, and it was actually a pretty slow week for the news. We got some confirmations of stuff that was hinted at last week. We knew that Shout and Scream Factory were going to announce their April releases, and they did. They announced that Rolling Thunder 1977 is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. I believe that's April 23rd. The 1997 Paul Schrader film Affliction is going to be coming to Blu-ray. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is going to be coming to Blu-ray. So nothing except Rolling Thunder is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. So it's a pretty slow month for Shout and Scream Factory. I actually thought they were going to announce The Faculty coming to 4K Blu-ray. That was hinted at last week. That's actually what we talked about here last week on the show. But there was no confirmation of that. Maybe they were just working on the scan and we'll get that a few months later. I'm not entirely sure. But I think we could still expect The Faculty on 4K Blu-ray. But overall, I mean, I might grab Rolling Thunder. I'm definitely going to grab Affliction because I'm a big Paul Schrader guy. Paul Schrader makes a lot of movies that really speak to me, and he's the guy who wrote Taxi Driver, and I actually think he wrote Rolling Thunder. Hold on a second. Yeah, Paul Schrader did, which makes all the sense in the world that he would have wrote Rolling Thunder, so that makes a lot of sense. So I guess we'll be celebrating Paul Schrader in April. I don't mind that. Love Paul Schrader. But really not too much in there that stands out to me. One thing that was announced that's getting a 4K scan is No Way Out from 1987. This stars Gene Hackman, Kevin Costner, Sean Young, and this movie is fantastic. I actually really enjoy this movie. It's a great thriller. It also features my favorite Will Patton performance. He's fantastic in that movie, and his arc, it just ends in such a crazy way. Actually, the whole movie is just full of twists and turns. For the most part, it takes place in the Pentagon, and this is the movie that really put Kevin Costner on the map. We'd seen him in other stuff before this. He was actually in Loris Kasdan's The Big Chill, but all of his scenes were actually cut, so he's not even in the film. He was actually supposed to play the guy Alex who passed away, but I guess that's still him in the coffin technically, but he's not actually in the movie. But Lawrence Kasdan made it up to him, and he appears in a pretty major part in Silverado, which is actually one of my favorite westerns. It really feels like an 80s western, so I mean, it's a little bit more fun. You also get a great Kevin Kline performance in that movie. Love that movie. But really, when it came to No Way Out, this is really where people really started to notice that Kevin Costner is going to be one of film's great leading mans, and this is what leads him to The Untouchables, and that eventually leads him to Dances with Wolves, which wins him Best Director and Best Film at the 1991 Academy Awards. So this is really what shot a rocket to Kevin Costner's ass and made him a major player in Hollywood. And that run was pretty short. You know, by like the mid-90s, and actually I watched the Rewatchables, and they talk about this, how Tom Hanks pretty much market corrected Kevin Costner, because once Tom Hanks really gets going in the mid-90s, that's it. We don't really hear too much from Kevin Costner until we got to about Yellowstone, and then he kind of got put right back on the map. He had some small parts here and there. Obviously, he plays Jonathan Kent, Clark Kent's father, Superman's dad, in 2013's Man of Steel. He also pops up in Molly's Game, but he really didn't pop up and really get back on people's radars until we got to Yellowstone. And now he's got two westerns coming out this year that are connected, and he's directing them both, so we'll see what Kevin Costner's up to in 2024. But I'm really looking forward to the new 4K scan from Kino Lorber for No Way Out. I'm looking forward to that. I just watched their 4K scan of Kindergarten Cop on 4K Blu-ray. Really enjoyed that. You'll see my review for that tomorrow, but man, they did a great transfer on that. So I think the thing with Kino Lorber is they're always kind of at the mercy of the source material. So if the source material is not in great shape, usually the 4K Blu-ray doesn't come out in the best of shape. Look at movies like Marathon Man. That always had kind of a rough source material, and the 4K Blu-ray isn't the most pretty, and that's just kind of how the film was in general. I think Kindergarten Cop, a 1990 film, had great source material. It's an Ivan Reitman film, so you can imagine that it's shot very well, especially at that time where he's really he's just coming off of Ghostbusters 2, and he's kind of a big player in Hollywood at the time, so it makes sense that would have good source material. It's well shot. So No Way Out, if I remember correctly, it did look pretty good the last time I saw it, so I think that's going to be a really nice looking 4K Blu-ray. And speaking of Kino Lorber, we didn't talk about it last week, but Changing Lanes is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. This is actually a pretty fun thriller as well, starring Samuel Jackson and Ben Affleck. This is kind of one that came and went. Nobody ever really talks about it anymore, but I'm looking forward to that one. That's a lot of fun. Surprisingly, Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson have good chemistry in this film, so I'm looking forward to revisiting that. I had only seen it the one time, but I remember it being pretty good. And that was really it for the news this week. Nothing really else was announced. There weren't even really too much rumors this week. You can now pre-order True Lies, The Abyss, and Aliens on 4K Blu-ray. Right now they're about $40 on Amazon, so they will drop in price. Everywhere else is promoting them at $25, whether it be Walmart, Target, or if you go to any other sites, it's really just Amazon. And that's because Amazon starts it at the MSRP price, and then eventually they will drop down to the selling point that everybody else is selling them at once we get closer to release in March. It's just that they put it at the MSRP price. And when you pre-order from Amazon anyway, they will always give you the lowest price possible once it ships. So whenever it ships, that's when they charge you. And whatever the lowest price was during that pre-order period, that's what they charge you. So if it ever hits even below $25 in this period, if you pre-order it right now, you'll get it at that price. So that's a pretty cool thing that Amazon does, especially right now when we're all looking for new sites to order 4K Blu-rays from. I actually just did my first order with this site called The Atomic Movie Store. I actually ordered Peeping Tom on 4K Blu-ray, and I ordered High Tension on 4K Blu-ray from Second Sight. Those should be here this week, so look for those reviews coming up this week. But this is my first order ever from them. You know, I'm looking for places to import stuff. Usually I use Diabolic DVD, but I don't know if you guys know anything about ShopPay. And for the collectors out here, ShopPay, it's a beautiful thing. You can split it up into 4 payments. So I only had to pay $14 when I pre-order these, and then I'll have 3 more payments of $14 going forward. You know, that way I don't notice it as much. But if you get a little bit greedy with this and you end up with like 4 shop payments coming out a week, you know, you'll end up broke like myself. But still, it really makes buying 4K Blu-rays a lot easier on the wallet, but you're still getting as many as you want. Plus, this way you can import stuff if you live here in the United States. But if you live in a Region B area, I imagine the shipping is a little bit less for you guys, and you can get Peepin' Tom and High Tension over there. I'm looking forward to revisiting High Tension as well. I got the Region Free 4K Blu-ray. I didn't get that beautiful Second Sight Collector's Edition. I wish I did, but trying to save a little bit of money, and plus I haven't seen High Tension in years, so this will be my first time revisiting that film as well. But that's going to do it here for the news, guys. Let's kick it on over to me and Faith, and we'll start this week's Q&A, and whatever the hell Faith wants to talk about this week portion of the show. Hey, everyone! I found Faith out in the hall, dragged her in here, and said, you're doing the show this week, and that's why Faith's here right now. So we're back with our usual, we're not doing this or that. Faith wants to try and ask me some trivia questions, and then we'll get into the Q&A portion.
All right.
All right, so let's go.
The first question is, who played park owner John Hammond in Jurassic Park?
John Hammond.
Hammond.
And do you mean the actor?
Yeah.
Richard Attenborough.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Also directed Gandhi. Best Picture winner.
All right. What critically panned 1984 country musical comedy starred Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone?
Oh my god, I actually do not know what this is. Hold on a second, let me see if I can pull it though. Because I've definitely heard of this movie. Oh my god, I think Stallone directed it too. Fuck, I don't know.
Rhinestone.
No, wouldn't have got that. Absolutely not.
All right. What TV show was Jack Nicholson referencing when he ad-libbed, "Here's Johnny" in The Shining?
I mean, isn't that Johnny Carson?
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm just seeing if you know these things.
Johnny Carson, he can hit.
What's the name of the atomic dance near the beginning of the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Oh my god, I haven't seen this movie in years. Is it the Monster Mash?
No.
No, what is it?
It's called The Time Wrap.
The Time Wrap. Meatloaf has the best part in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, in my opinion.
In what 1950s drama does Betty Davis says, "Fasten your seatbelt, it's going to be a bumpy night"?
I have no idea.
All About Eve.
All About Eve.
Yeah.
You know, I almost bought that last year. I haven't seen that movie in so long. Yeah, that's one I really would have to read. That's a classic. Man, that's bad. Betty Davis.
It's a good one.
You know, well, it's bad for me. You know, Betty Davis is one of my favorites.
Betty Davis.
She's got Betty Davis. That's one of my favorite songs. So, I have some questions, and I want to wait for you for this one. Kevin Kruger asked, when it comes to dating, what are your biggest turnoffs? Now, me and you haven't dated, obviously, I hope you haven't dated since, but we started dating in 2011, and so I assume you haven't been on a date with somebody else since then, right?
You assume wrong.
I thought so. And that's understandable, you know, I get it.
Kidding.
Obviously, I'm a 10 out of 10.
What is...
Like, what attracted you to me? Was it the looks?
Well, no. He says turn off.
Oh, biggest turn offs. Well, still.
So I like somebody with a good personality, but a turn off to me would be someone who's a know-it-all.
I could be kind of a know-it-all.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's a big one. That's a big one for me.
Yeah, I know that about me. I don't like that either.
Yeah, I don't like a know-it-all. I like people who are willing to take in new information and not
be willing to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always willing to learn. I feel like ever since I've met you, I've learned a lot of new things.
Yeah, but it took you a long time to come around.
For me, I'm a big, learn the hard way kind of guy, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's not good.
It's terrible. It's a terrible trait. You should never be that person. But yeah, no, I'm a big, like, I have to lose for me to eventually win, because then I don't get it. Unfortunately, it's like, I got to get punched in the face 3 times. By the 4th, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go around you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's me. I know. It's a flaw. But my biggest turnoffs, there's not too many, but obviously if somebody has a really, really annoying voice, it's going to be really tough for me to, like, cause
yeah.
I get really, like, that's a big one for me. If someone's voice is just atrocious, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, you know all about that. Also, women with really short hair, they have to have the right face to pull it off. Like, honestly, when you think about it, there haven't been many in history who pulled it off. Like, the best one, there's Sigourney Weaver in Alien 3. There's, what's her name?
Oh, Demi Moore.
Demi Moore in G.I. Jane. Like, she pulls off the shaved head look. She also pulls off that really stupid haircut in Ghost.
What?
But you know what? It's Demi Moore. But not everyone can pull those off. So some certain haircuts can be a turn off for me. Anything else for you? My milky white skin didn't turn you off?
No.
It's just
Bad breath.
Bad breath. Go sit in the hall. I bring you in here, and this is what you do to me? That was a great question, Kevin. Thank you so much. And the first question I'm going to be answering solo this week is from Kevin Kruger. And Kevin, I actually answered this last week, but for some reason the video and audio didn't sync up correctly, and it got all messed up on the files. So when I was trying to fix it, it just couldn't be fixed. So I'll re-answer this question this week, and this is a good question too. And he said, if someone paid you $1 million per year to not watch a single movie, how long could you go? Well, I mean, I really need the money, so $1 million would really leave me flush with cash. Flush with cash! And I'd be pretty happy about that, but I don't think I could do more than a year. I definitely think I could survive the year. It'd be really tough because movies are my favorite thing in the world. Honestly, it's one of the things that kind of gets me through life, is you really need that escape, and movies for me are my escape, and I'm also trying to make a living out of it, mainly because it's just my favorite thing ever. It's my favorite form of art. I don't even really get to watch too much TV or play as much video games anymore, and I don't really miss it too much, mainly because movies for me, they're just my passion, and I love film, and I know you guys love film as well. It's just one of those forms of art that are just special to us, that can really connect to us emotionally. But to lose that for a year, that would be pretty tough. I imagine I'd probably get pretty depressed, because films will bring me out of a depression. I've told you guys here before, whenever I'm in a really bad mood, things are going really terrible, I'll either put on The Terminator or Batman 89.
Better be sure.
That's why those two films are really high up on my all-time list. Terminator's number 1. I don't know where I'd put Batman, but it's really close to the Terminator, mainly because I could probably watch Batman 89 just every single day and just enjoy the hell out of it. It brings a smile to my face. Mainly, it'll help you forget about life for a little while. But if I have to survive 1 year without film and I don't get paid that $1 million at the end of the year, that year is going to be absolutely awful. And there is absolutely no way I could do a second year. But I could probably make that $1 million stretch out for the rest of my life. I hope. I don't know. Inflation is crazy right now, but I would definitely try to. And I'd reinvest it into Let's Talk Physical Media, and I could have a whole year of 4K Blu-ray reviews to catch up on. I'll have to talk about for that year. I guess we'll have to talk sports, or I'll have to pick up another art form for that year. I'm not entirely sure, but if someone out there is offering $1 million for me to not watch movies for a year, contact me. That'd be a fun game to play. So that was a great question, Kevin. Thank you so much, buddy. And the next two Kevin Kruger questions are all about sports, and I'm glad about that. I don't get to talk sports too much here on the channel. I am a pretty big sports fan. You guys have probably seen me wearing like a NASCAR sweatshirt or a NASCAR hat. You've seen me with my Jets hoodie. So I'm a big Jets fan. I'm a big NASCAR fan. NASCAR is probably my favorite sport, if you can believe that. Then I watch football. It's probably my second favorite sport. And then right behind that is basketball. And that's probably all the sports I watch. Like, I keep up with baseball. When I was younger, I was a big baseball fan. But for me, my eyes aren't the greatest, and it's hard for me to follow the baseball. And it's 10 times harder when it comes to hockey, so I don't really watch that. I've tried getting into European football before, but it hasn't clicked, mainly because of time. I know Shamrock Balls, aka David, he was trying to get me to switch over and start watching that, but I just don't really have the time. I would love to. I think I'd actually really enjoy it, but unfortunately it's just a time thing, and I have commitments to other sports. And he actually asked, would you rank the following sports teams in terms of your favorites? And those teams are the New York Jets, the Detroit Lions, the New York Yankees, the New York Knicks, the Boston Red Sox, the Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Dallas Cowboys. So my favorite is gonna be the New York Jets. As much pain as they have caused me me throughout my entire life, and they have caused a lot of pain, a lot of depression.
Coordinator, you got a busted play here, and then Sanchez gets hit, ball is loose, and it's alive.
And they've just been, a thorn in my side. My dad gifted me that team with birth. It was my birthright to be a Jets fan because that's what he was, and man, he cursed me for life. But then right behind that, I would actually put the Detroit Lions, mainly because it was actually Barry Sanders who made me a football fan, and it was really, I think, his last year of his career. But Barry Sanders, even in his last year of his career, was still phenomenal. If you ever watch Barry Sanders play, I truly believe he is the greatest running back of all time. Him and Walter Payton, I think they're the two best that, I never saw Jim Brown. I never even saw Walter Payton, but Walter Payton was another one. When you watch highlights of him, it's just unbelievable. But watch highlights of Barry Sanders. His career wasn't even that long, and that's just because he played in Detroit, which is really funny because Calvin Johnson, who was a wide receiver in Detroit, he actually had a very similar short career, but was one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. The Detroit Lions have found ways to destroy great careers, mainly because they're one of the sad sacks of the NFL, which is really funny because I put the Lions as my second favorite NFL team behind the New York Jets, and those are probably two of the top 4 sad sacks of the NFL teams of all time. You got the two of them, then you probably got the Cleveland Browns and the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills have at least been successful, made it to 4 straight Super Bowls, but when you lose 4 straight Super Bowls, that's rough. That's really, really tough. I don't know how you come back from that, and as you can see, they have really struggled since then, but the Jets have only won one Super Bowl. That was Super Bowl 3. That's when we had Broadway, Joe Namath, and, 17-point underdogs. That's the highlight of being a Jet fan, and that was, 33 years before I was born?
Dumb bitch.
So you really don't have too much to go on that. So my number 1 would be the Jets. Number 2 would be the Lions because I love Barry Sanders. Number 3 would be the New York Knicks. I'm a big basketball fan, and my favorite basketball team is the New York Knicks. Now I've kind of fallen out of love with basketball over the last few years, mainly because it's really rough being a Knicks fan as well. And unlike the NFL, basketball is very predictable, so you kind of know where the finals are heading. Mainly because we have 7-game series, and the best team will overcome that. And we don't really get too many underdog teams winning. That's why when the Detroit Pistons won, I think it was like 2004, that was a huge deal because that kind of came right in the middle of the Lakers winning title after title after title. No one really thought that they would end up winning that, and they really did, and that's just because that team was fantastic with guys like Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace. Really loved that Detroit Pistons team. Wasn't Chauncey Billups on that team too? That was a great one. I know you're a big Pistons fan, Kevin. Wow, the rest of these teams I don't really like at all, so I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Lakers. They're historically great team. They never really bothered me as far as being a good team. Yeah, Faith. Faith's a big Knicks fan. I should have brought her in for the sports question. But you know what? I will save the other sports question for when Faith is in here because Faith really is a truly big Knicks fan. So we'll answer this question, so I'll keep going down the line. But yeah, so the Lakers are next because you know what? I've always enjoyed certain Lakers players, and I have nothing against LeBron James. Obviously the debate between him versus Michael Jordan. I used to be, dead set on Michael Jordan being number 1. He went 6 for 6 in the NBA Finals, won 6 Finals MVPs. He is the greatest basketball player of all time. But LeBron James's longevity really can't be questioned. He's really good at what he does. So, I have no problem with the Los Angeles Lakers. And then behind them, I would probably put the Boston Celtics. That's a little bit rougher, but that's another franchise where you appreciate the history of it. The Larry Bird years in the 1980s, Lakers versus Celtics. If you guys watched Winning Time on Max, that's a really good show. I don't really watch too many TV shows, but when I do, I watch a show like that Adam McKay created and produced. John C. Reilly is great on. It's just a fantastic show. And man, if you're a fan of that era, that's really what saved the NBA was the Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson rivalry. So you got to kind of be a fan of those teams just in general if you're a fan of the NBA, because really we wouldn't have the NBA that we have today without them. Really once Michael Jordan came in there, and then the 1990s, I would say that's probably when the NBA was at its peak, was in the 90s when Michael Jordan was leading the way, and we got Space Jam. That's when the NBA was at its highest. And behind them, I would probably go the Dallas Cowboys. Not a fan of the Dallas Cowboys. That's America's team. I don't know who's voting for America's team, but I don't think it should be the Dallas Cowboys. But I don't have too much hate for them. They don't bother me when they're on the screen. It's just that, they're the Cowboys. They're just one of those teams that gets overhyped every single year. Like, this is their year. You guys haven't won a Super Bowl since the mid-90s. Your years have come and gone. People have been born and died in the time span since you guys have won, even making it to a Super Bowl. Forget that. That hasn't happened in a long time either. NFC Championship game, when was the last time that happened? I can't really throw stones because I'm a Jets fan, and the Jets have been historically one of the worst teams. that's why I can never really insult any other NFL team. But come on, Cowboy fans. You guys overhyped yourselves every single year. At least I know going into the year that when Aaron Rodgers went down after 4 plays, I was like, you know what?
What'd I say? What? Oh, there's a fucking surprise.
And then after that, I'd have to go with the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox in a tie because I'm a New York Mets fan and I do not like either of those two teams. So those two could just stay there at the bottom. That was a great question, Kevin. Thank you so much, buddy. And then the next Kevin Kruger question is actually going to be probably the last question that we do together. And that is, what are your top 5 favorite moments in sports of all time?
Oh.
Now, I know that you're a big sports fan. You've always been on the winning side of sports.
No, it's not true. I'm a Knicks fan.
Well, yeah, but you're also a Giant fan when I'm a Jet fan.
Well, the Giants are the only team.
But they've won.
Yeah, twice.
I've never had a team win.
Yeah, well, those 2 wins are my biggest sports moment because because I got to watch it. You know, it's like if you see your team win a championship in your lifetime, that's a huge thing because only one team out of all those teams are winning that year. You know, so that's a huge thing. When people say, "Oh, they haven't won ever," it's like it's hard. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing. You got to build a team, and sometimes you build a great team, and even that team isn't good enough.
No, I get what you're saying. I completely understand what you're saying. You know, but the Knicks, I mean, still, I've just never gotten to experience a team actually winning. Like, I saw the Jets go to back-to-back AFC championship games. Like, that was really cool.
Well, that's big. Yeah, that's a big thing, yeah.
But then they lost to the Colts and Steelers, and then that hurt. Honestly, guys, I don't know if I've told you this, and I think I found the reason why the Jets have been bad ever since then. The Jets have not made the playoffs since I started dating Faith. I started dating Faith, our first date was February 14th, Valentine's Day.
That's so annoying.
Valentine's Day. Bummer.
2011. The Jets lost that playoff game. I believe it was to the Steelers in January of 2011. The Jets have not made the playoffs since. So we're going to have to test this theory. I'm going to break up and divorce Faith.
Yes, for this.
Just to see if the Jets make the playoffs again, you know? Because I think they got it in them. I just think that, unfortunately...
You're going to bring me back, though?
If they win the Super Bowl. Because once I get one Super Bowl, I'm good. That's all I really need is the one.
You're a horrible husband.
It feels like you put a hex on me.
Yeah, the Knicks are my team. That's my team. Right now they're doing great.
Yeah.
They, 9 in a row, I believe they got.
Beating some quality teams,
they got some tough games coming up. They got the Grizzlies, they got the Lakers, I think today or tomorrow.
And we were looking at ticket price of like $500-something.
Yeah, nuts.
For like a bad seat too.
Nuts.
A regular season game, you're paying to see LeBron.
Yeah.
You know.
Nuts. But we got some tough games coming ahead because the Lakers aren't bad. They're a good team, and I feel like they just do enough to get into the playoffs, and once they're in the playoffs, they...
Well, that's like the Chiefs right now going to the Super Bowl. Everyone's all like, the Chiefs, they got bad wide receivers. But you know what it's like is Patrick Mahomes is so good that once they hit the playoffs, that they, like the Patriots, all those teams, they're able to turn it on when it matters most. Mm-hmm. And he's so clutch. Andy Reid's one of the best coaches in football history.
Except against the Giants, the Patriots.
You talking about Tom Brady and the Patriots?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I had to watch that Super Bowl twice. Do you guys understand that as a Jets fan? I'm sure if you're a Jets fan, you understand, but you had to watch the Patriots, who we all despise. Bill Belichick, he quit on the Jets. He was our head coach. Look it up. For, I think, a couple weeks. Then he did that famous, I resign as the Jets head coach on a napkin. I have no sympathy for that man. So, so he can go screw himself after what he did. I had to watch the Patriots with Tom Brady beat lose to the Giants, who are who are another New York team. That's my wife being a Giant fan. Do you understand what the pain that caused? Because the Jets haven't been there since. Been to the playoffs.
Playoffs?
You kidding me?
You want to talk about playoffs?
But you still got to list them off with your favorite sports moments. Because for me, my favorite sports moment actually happened recently when Ryan Blaney won the NASCAR
That was yours of all time?
Well, it's never happened to me. Like, I grew up a Jeff Gordon fan, but the first year I started watching NASCAR was in 2001, and Jeff Gordon won the championship that year. But it was my first year watching, and that was the only championship I actually got to see Jeff Gordon win. He never won again until his retirement. He had 3 before that, but... So for me, finally seeing a driver who I root for win a championship, it was a big deal, because, I was a Dale Jr. fan too, but he never won a championship. He won a couple of 500s. But, I never really got to see any of my teams. And so Ryan Blaney is really the only guy. So that's like a big, for me, that's number one.
Yeah, it was the Giants, 2012.
That Super Bowl. That was what Mario Manningham catching the ball on the sideline over there in Indy. Yeah, that was a big deal. Another one it's kind of a negative. I mean, overall it's a negative, but I will never forget when this happened. The Malice at the Palace.
Oh my God.
Between the Pistons and Pacers.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I don't know how it was for you, but I saw this happen, and then if you guys can remember ESPN News, it was every 30 minutes they would play the same episode essentially over and over again, and the only thing they were talking about was the Malice at the Palace. So if you guys don't know what this is, it was the Pacers versus the Pistons. It was at the Palace at Auburn Hills in Detroit, Michigan, and at the very end of this game, Ron Artest and Ben Wallace, they get into a little altercation. Ron Artest, who's now named Meta World Peace, he goes and lays over on the announce table, and somebody in the crowd throws a drink at him, and this man flies up into the stands, and they all start brawling with the crowd. I mean, and then, you got Pistons and Pacers fighting, players fighting, the freaking crowd, the audience, people throwing drinks and popcorn. They canceled the rest of the game. It was insane. It was like a riot just on live TV. I mean, that was one of the craziest things that I ever seen in sports. So I put that in my top 5 favorite sports moments, wouldn't you?
Not favorite, but it's like it's a staple.
That's a big one, right?
That's a staple, yeah.
It was never really much bigger things than that. As far as another NASCAR moment I thought was crazy was in 2011. This guy named Trevor Bayne won the Daytona 500, just a no-name guy. He was 18 years old, I think, and it was his second career start. Like, that was crazy. When I was a kid, it was really cool when the Mets versus the Yankees in the Subway Series in 2000 for the World Series title.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. The Yankees won 4-1.
I like the Yankees, but the sports I watch are basketball and football.
Do you have any basketball highlights? Because you were a Shaq fan, and you were, I assume,
watching Shaq and Kobe win a title was pretty cool.
They were just so dominant, though.
That was pretty cool. And even watching Shaq with the Heat, that was pretty cool as well.
That was cool. That was like...
Because I like Shaq. I think he was probably my favorite player of all time.
Baby Dwayne Wade on that team, too.
Yeah, so I enjoyed that.
Yeah, those were cool teams. It's just tough being a Knicks fan because we haven't had any really good Knicks highlights.
Well, no. I mean, Bronson right now is killing them. 40 points last night.
What are the Knicks known for in the last 10 years before this year?
Nothing.
Jeremy Lin.
Yeah.
Remember Linsanity? Oh, my God. That was it for like 2 or 3 weeks.
I'm like, nothing.
The Knicks are back.
Oh, Carmelo Anthony.
That's a negative.
Amari Stoudemire.
Knicks are back. We were excited for Amari, and that would have worked, but we were so desperate to get Carmelo.
I was really worried about their trade, the Quickly trade.
I was worried about that too.
Because I'm like, we're doing really well right now. But I have to say, it worked.
It did.
It worked.
Honestly, we might even be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I was worried about that.
And they're both they're doing good on the teams that they're on now. So, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, no. That's awesome.
Once a Knick, you're always a Knick, so.
Yeah. So honestly, I don't really have too many great sports highlights. I have a lot more. If you wanted to ask me my top 5 saddest sports moments, I probably have about 40 to 45 of those. I've been more hurt by sports than I've actually been, rewarded by sports fandom.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that, I'm paying my dues. Like, it's, eventually the Jets will win the Super Bowl and I will get to feel what other people have felt. All you people who have, like, these teams that win Super Bowl after Super Bowl after Super Bowl, you don't realize how good you have it. There's teams out there like the Lions, the Bills, the Browns, and the Jets who never even get to sniff anything like that. And you people are out there winning Super Bowl titles and just being smug about it the next year when they're bad again to your team or something, like Patriot fans right now. How can you be upset? You deserve Mac Jones. You deserve worse than Mac Jones. You deserve Mac Jones backed up by Zach Wilson. That's what you deserve. I don't get it. I wouldn't complain for 10 years if the Jets won a Super Bowl. I'd complain again, but I'd wait some time.
Yeah.
So, it's like Eagles fans. Like, they're all upset this year. It's like, you guys won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles a few years ago.
Yeah, they won 2 Super Bowls, right?
No, they've only won 1.
Oh, they won 1.
They've been to 2. They went last year and lost.
Yeah,
Actually, they've been to 4 because they also lost that one to the Patriots, Super Bowl 39. But anyway, Kevin, that was a great question, buddy. Thank you so much. And our producer, Mr. Smelly Potato, asked me, pick your favorite and least favorite movies from the following decades. 1980s. Favorite is very, very, very obvious. That is going to be The Terminator. The movie's a masterpiece. You guys have heard me go on and on and on about it, and I will go on and on about it forever because the movie is one of the greatest of all time. And a lot of my favorite films came out from the 1980s, so, when we get to, like, the 2000s and the 2010s, those were probably my least favorite decades in comparison. Like, my favorite decades are the 80s, 90s, and the 1970s. Those are my three favorite decades for film, especially compared to now. Modern film, I get caught up in a few of them each year. I really do love them. I still see probably at least 100 brand new films each and every year. In the 1980s, it just feels like you could go out any single weekend and there would be a great film in theaters. I really missed out on that. I wish I was around in the 1980s to see as many movies as I possibly could. Imagine being around in like the summer of 1982 or the summer of 1989. A new classic film would come out every single weekend. Same thing in the 1970s, coming off the code years of the 1960s. I mean, my God, it just must have been such a special time. We just can't experience that again. So even though Terminator is my favorite film in the 1980s, a lot of my other favorite films came out in the 1980s. And picking a least favorite film of the 1980s is pretty rough. But I'm going to have to go with Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. That movie is god-awful. My God. I've done a full review here on the channel. It's just because they had no money for it. And, there's some things in there I can appreciate, but it's just a very bad film. And then in the 1990s, my favorite film of the 1990s is 1994's Pulp Fiction, directed by Quentin Tarantino. This is actually my second favorite film of all time, and another decade filled with great films. It's very hard to pick just one, but Pulp Fiction is one of the movies that made me a fan of film. It's one of those special movies. Once I saw that film and I appreciated non-linear storytelling, I just fell in love with it. Not to mention, it's a crime film. It's violent. It's just a movie that I really stuck my claws into and just fell in love with movies from that point on. I saw it at way too young of an age, but I'm very glad that I did. And that's my favorite film of the 1990s. And I love so many 1990s films, so it's very hard to actually pick that. But at the end of the day, it's not that hard because it's Pulp Fiction, and it's a movie that made Quentin Tarantino one of the greatest directors here. He's my favorite director of all time. It made Samuel Jackson a star. I still think Jules is one of the greatest film characters of all time. And it saved John Travolta. At this point, John Travolta had no other options. This was the only offer he had, was for 1994's Pulp Fiction. But my least favorite film of the 1990s, the 1990s were filled with some bad films that I actually liked, mainly because I grew up in the 1990s. So many people might say like Baby's Day Out's an atrocious movie. I like that movie. Same thing with like Three Ninjas, High Noon, and Mega Mountain. I grew up with that movie. A lot of people don't like Space Jam. I grew up with Space Jam. So it's very hard to pick a least favorite film of the 1990s. I'm going to go with Powder, mainly because if you guys see my skin, I'm an extremely white man. If other people saw Powder, they would just assume that, I had the same superpowers as Powder, and they would make jokes about it. I remember I worked at Stop and Shop, which is a local supermarket up here, and I had a coworker, and every time it'd be raining outside and maybe thunder and lightning, because at the end of Powder, there's a spoiler alert for Powder. It's a bad movie. The character gets struck by lightning and disappears, and he would always tell me, "Yo, John, be careful out there. I don't want you to disappear in the lightning." And I'd be like, "Come on, man." So just for the pain that Powder caused, I'm going to pick Powder for the least favorite film of the 1990s. And then the 2000s. This was actually tougher, but I'm going to still go with 2008's The Dark Knight. That's another film like Pulp Fiction that made me a big film fan, and the anticipation of The Dark Knight. I did a review this past week if you guys want to actually see all my full thoughts on The Dark Knight, but that is one of the special movies for me as well. I saw it 9 times in theaters. I got my number 10 in 2018 for its 10-year anniversary, 3 times in one day. This movie meant the world to me. Now, like I said in my review, I've kind of cooled off on it, but I could still appreciate what it was, and especially how important it was to me at the time. And now my least favorite film of the 2000s, I saw some bad movies in the 2000s, actually, but I'm going to go with 2009's Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. That movie, I saw that twice in theaters, mainly because I have a lot of groups of friends at the time, and they want to go see. I went with my cousins one time, and then I went with my group of friends the next time, and both times I was just wanted to like scratch my eyes out of my face. So I was like, I cannot take this movie. First of all, I liked the first Transformers from '07, but I was like, okay, let's see what they could do with 2009's, and that's just when they jumped the shark. They nosedived. We had racist Transformers. My God, that movie is just so bad. And I don't like the Transformers franchise. I can go on and on about that. It's my least favorite major franchise out there. Just don't connect with me. And I think a big reason of that is because of these Michael Bay Transformers movies. The action, yes, I get that's what you're there for, but I don't like it at all. Too many jump cuts, hard to see. I don't like that franchise. So for me, it's definitely going to be Revenge of the Fallen from 2009. And then we get to the 2010s. This is a little bit harder because I've had some great films that I love come out of the 2010s, but I'm going to go with 2018's Hereditary. This movie, these are one of those life-changing movies. This is one of the best horror films I've ever seen. I absolutely love this movie. I remember sitting in the theater, and when that one scene happens, my jaw just hitting the floor, and the whole theater was silent. And plus, it's silent in the movie, too, so you could just hear a pin drop. Nobody was eating popcorn. No one's drinking soda like an animal. None of that stuff. Everybody's just there in shock of what just happened, especially if you saw the trailer. You didn't see this one coming. And then even on rewatches, I just love this movie. The dread that you feel inside, the horrific scenes. I mean, it's a rough watch. I know some people don't appreciate the ending like Faith, but I understand that. I can appreciate that, but I still think the ending works for me personally, and I think this is the movie that put Ari Aster on the map and really made him one of the best working directors today. We just had Beau is Afraid come out in 2023, and yeah, he's like 3 for 3, but I still think Hereditary is his best film. This is his magnum opus. It would be hard for me to believe, even though he's probably got many more films in him, any film topping Hereditary. Now, my least favorite film of the 2010s, and this is a decade where I saw so many films, but none really stand out as being like god awful that I went to like the theaters and saw. But I actually remember I'm a big comedy guy, and I remember being really excited to see a movie starring Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. I thought these two would kill it. I was a big, especially with me and my wife Faith, we used to love going to the theaters and seeing comedies, and we don't get them in theaters that much anymore, but one of those movies we wanted to go see because we're big Will Ferrell fans. And Kevin Hart, I always liked Kevin Hart more the stand-up comedian than the actor. I think that as far as being an actor, he's actually getting better at it, but I just always thought he was alright, but his movies were never memorable. Like the 2 ride-along films, I enjoyed them for the one-time watches, but I never wanted to run back to them. But I was excited to see him and Will Ferrell because they clearly have great chemistry. If you ever saw Kevin Hart's talk show that he has on Netflix, the interview with him and Will Ferrell is just, it's great. They have great chemistry. You can clearly see that they love each other. And, you know, I was really excited to see Get Hard. And that movie disappointed me so much, even more than Dumb and Dumber 2, which made me rethink my love of Dumb and Dumber. But I was really, you know, with Dumb and Dumber 2, at least I had my expectations like, okay, you know, it's a legacy sequel, you know, I'm gonna go into it with lower expectations, even though I was still disappointed, and I think that's one of the worst sequels ever. Get Hard, I was excited. You know, Will Ferrell was still at the height of his powers, Kevin Hart was on the rise. That movie just, oh man, that's gonna be mine, is Get Hard from the 2010s. Great question, Mr. Smelly Potato. Thank you so much, buddy.
So, before we get out of here, Faith, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I'm good.
No?
I'm good, yeah.
Yeah, nothing going on in the world of Faith? I know that you've started reading more books. That's a big deal for you.
Yeah, I'm reading books, and, you know, that's, I mean, this is the movie thing. It's
yeah,
not a book thing.
What book did you read? You read it to you read a Stephen King book, The Outsider.
The Outsider. That one was really good, and if you haven't seen the show on HBO, it's there. It's a little different from the book. The book's really long, so if you don't like to read, I don't suggest it, but if you like to read, I suggest it. I've read a few books, but, you know, this is a movie channel.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. I just thought I wanted to inquire with you before we got out of here.
Yeah, I did 5 books so far. I'm on my 6th book.
That's pretty damn good. I'm impressed. But anyway, guys, we're going to get out of here today. We're about to head off to the accountant and do our taxes. So, you know, we have a really exciting afternoon for us. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of Let's Talk Physical Media. We will be back next week. If you have any questions you want us to answer them, leave those in the comment section below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe button, turn notifications on, and, of course, share this with all of your friends. And you can even become a channel member like our producers, John Doe Juggalo, Jason Martin, and Mr. Smelly Potato, or a channel director like Frank's Media and Reviews, and check out his YouTube channel as well. Big physical media guy and just a great guy in general. And then if you're done doing all of that, why don't you guys get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.